Hello, my name is John Mollet. I'm a third-year American Studies PhD student, and I'm Nakota and Assiniboine-Nakota Sioux from the Red Bottom Band at Fort Peck, Montana. Today, I want to share some of the research I've been doing in the Lonnie Nelson papers at the Allen Special Collections at the University of Washington, Seattle. Research made possible through a Yale RITM travel grant. This research connects closely to my work on Hank Adams right here, an American Indian activist from the same tribe as me, who's one of the central figures in American Indian activism during the 20th century. In Antonio Gramsci's terms, Adams was a organic intellectual. Even though he completed only 2 years of college, Veronica Jr. would call him the most important Indian of the late 20th century. A lot of Adams' activism grew out of the federal government's Indian termination and relocation policies in the 1950s, which threatened tribal sovereignty and tried to dismantle Native nations. As Veronica warned during this era of urgent crisis, this is our last chance. After this, we won't get another one. Adams was involved in nearly every major event of this period. He helped recenter American Indian activist strategies in the Pacific Northwest during the early 1960s fissions. He played a role in the 1968 Poor People's Campaign, drafted the 20 Points Proposal, and was a main organizer of the 1972 Caravan of Broken Treaties, a document that would later influence the 2005 UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. He would also facilitate the 1973 Wounded Knee Siege and serve as a lay lawyer in the 1974 Boyd decision, one of the most important legal rulings on Native sovereignty in the 20th century. Yet, despite all of this, Adam remains little known, and there's still no sustained scholarly work on him. What I found in the Lonnie Nelson papers also highlights Adams' international work. While some scholars noted that American Indian activists traveled to West and East Germany and even maintained an AIM office in West Berlin, almost nothing has been written about travels to Vietnam and China. Adam and his organization, the Survival American Indian Association, weren't just planning travel to Vietnam. They had already visited the People's Republic of China. On top of that, they were invited to the 1972 UN Stockholm Conference on the environment, one of the first international conferences to focus on environmental issues. This helps us realize that American Indian activism was not only resistant to the United States government, but also an effort to articulate the struggles on the global stage. This is actually what brought me to Seattle after coming across a small excerpt of their travels in Vietnam in a small Indian social newspaper at the Pine Creek Library last year. I discovered around 50 documents related to these journeys, including newspapers, newsletters, letters, and more. Additionally, when we think about how North Americans fit into the broader global indigenous struggle during this period, we're reminded of First Nation scholars George Manrell's pivotal work, The Fourth World, published in 1974. However, it becomes clear from these documents is that American Indians were making these global connections and efforts at least as early as 1972. This is important because not only has no one uncovered this aspect of Adams' work, but it also helped us reorient our understanding of 20th century American Indian activism on a global stage. Thank you. Yeah.
John, somebody who was concerned about colonialism and U.S. empire, did he have a message to Native soldiers in the U.S. military?
Yeah. So, to save on time, I didn't really talk about this, but I actually found out about him through his activism with U.S. soldiers. So through Bernie Whitebear, Sid Mills, he actually got a lot of Native soldiers out of the Vietnam War. And he actually talked to congressmen such as George McGovern. And we actually see those letters in the Lonnie Nelson papers. So.
That's a follow-up question. What was he like as a person?
Very serious. So part of the reason why he's not as famous as Clyde Bellincourt or Russell Means, the kind of TV stars of AIM of the 1970s and 1960s, was he's a very serious person, very studious. He wrote the 20-point proposal in 48 hours in a motel room in Minneapolis right before they had to go to D.C. So he didn't really play around. There's actually this letter that says he wrote to a congressman. It's like, someone has to do the hard work. So, thank you.